all the way down East Hastings to Stanley Park, through Stanley Park and over the bridge. West Vancouver Police took over and blocked all the intersections into Ambleside. And that was the first checkpoint. And then I stopped the cars, and the car stopped. And the bikes all then found their way out to Haney to Maple to Golden Years Park, where they had a picnic at
That's
noon.
right.
And then the bikes left there and ended up at
I was working
Fraser
that day,
Downs.
unfortunately. I
Fraser
couldn't go.
Downs at about, they
Saw
ended
them all
up
go
in Fraser
through.
Downs at about 1 o'clock. But it was a really good, or 2 o'clock, but it was a really good ride.
Yeah.
And then on the one that we did down to, the secret, if you could do this, is to get the police involved so that they block the intersections and so on. And
They did that in Europe. It was fabulous.
well, I can say it with driving or going through downtown. Now, I wasn't supposed to be the lead car. What happened was, and this is funny, there was a VPD car, one of their black ones with the little things on, and it's actually the motorcycle car. There's a car that travels with the motorcycle team, Joe team. And it was lead, and then there was a 57 Chevy ambulance, and a 55 Chevy red police car, and then there was me in the 53 Chevy police car. And behind me was the West Vancouver red 47 Jeep, 4-cylinder Jeep, pulling a trailer. And the trailer it was pulling was an old antique hose. Well, this Jeep could not keep up, and the VPD police car went whang like that, lights and siren. And the ambulance threw his lights and siren on, and the fire chief's car, 55 Chevy, threw its lights and siren on. And I had a choice. I could keep up with them.
But then you would have left everybody else behind.
Then I could either be the end of these 4 guys, or I could be the lead of the
them.
rest of them. So I just hung back and became the lead of the rest of the deal. And it was fun going through Vancouver with my lights weren't working, but with the siren blowing all the way down East Hastings and over the bridge, and every street corner with the VPD car blocking it off. It was cool.
Well, what we did in Europe, and that's probably what you do, and you do rides with clubs, as we were going through various towns in Europe, the police would phone ahead to the police departments of that little town, and they would come out and they would join us, and then as we were coming close to the town, they'd move forward ahead of us, and then they would block side roads, and then
that's what I'm talking about.
I've never ridden in a group that large except for the toy run. So
it's going through every town, and people knew we were coming, and they were sort of hanging
How many
out
were
their
there with
windows.
you? How many of you were there?
We were 22 bikes,
Really?
and they were all police.
Except for you.
Except for you.
I was the only civilian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's the same thing, isn't it?
No, I think maybe a couple of them had, a couple of the guys had their wives with them or girlfriends with them, but generally speaking, it was, and I was the only one we were the only ones from Canada that were on this particular trek. What was funny was when we arrived in Annonay in France, because this was where we were meeting, we met them in a police depot, and that was quite a trip because I ended up staying in police barracks
Really?
and military barracks. Where the men and women, there was the same bathroom for the men and women, and the rooms were about this wide. It was quite an
At least you got
interesting
separate
trip.
rooms.
Yeah, we didn't get to sleep with the guys. But
Damn.
But when we arrived, stupid me, I didn't think far enough in advance. So I had this fairly large suitcase because I like to travel with a lot of clothes. So I have this suitcase. Now I knew that I would be biking, but we were also told that there would be, a van, and there would be,
chase vehicle,
all that stuff. And there was, because we'd stop for picnics and we'd have our food and so on. But anyway, I had a fairly large suitcase, and we arrived, and some of the guys looked and said, Are you on this bike ride? Yeah. Where's your bike? Pardon?
It's in the suitcase. I got to blow
Where's
it
your
up.
bike? They said, well, we didn't bring our bikes. We were told that we would, there would be bikes here, that the police all had bikes. We'd be equipped with helmets, and that's what we were told. So they had to run around, and
Find your
I wore a police helmet. It said police on the side of it. Not the whole trip, but part of the trip. It was quite amazing. And then I had to borrow, because I didn't have proper shoes, and I didn't have my riding boots.
Yeah.
So I had to borrow some guy's riding shoes, which was fine. His feet were a little bigger than mine, but I was able to stay on the bike with them. But so you have to really improvise. And there were no leathers. I mean, I didn't come with leathers at that time, because it was going to be really hot, and I was
wear your
gonna
leathers anyway.
I was going to be I was going to be spending other time doing stuff in Tuscany, so that was good.
What did you do? Go visit Umberto or something?
No, I didn't. I didn't go and visit Umberto. I wasn't prepared to pay that rate.
Well,
It's a fairly expensive proposition. It's wonderful, and I've had friends that have gone over to their teaching school, and they love it. But I wasn't into. I wanted to see Tuscany on my own, and so we had a car, and we did train stuff, and it was kind of nice.
God, you almost make it sound like to go to Europe. Never been to Europe.
Really?
No.
I have passed through.
Well, you've been to Israel and so on, so.
Yeah,
you
well,
have to
that was
see
what
some of
I
it.
passed through on my way to Israel.
How did you find? I love Israel.
I found the most fascinating thing was getting on the bus from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem with about 15 soldiers with their AK-47s.
Yeah, there is that.
I mean, they didn't actually have the clips in the guns, but you could see they had the clips and there was ammo there, and
Yeah,
it was very interesting.
Yeah,
Walking around Jerusalem.
we did a familiarization trip with some journalists, and we went to Israel. And the one thing that we had to do was we had to swim in the Dead, the Med, and the Red.
Okay, yeah.
So
the Red Sea, the Med Sea, and the Dead Sea.
yeah, so we swam in all three seas, and we were in
Swim in
Jeru-
two and walk on one.
Well, yeah, we sort of just you can't really swim very much in the
Dead Sea.
Dead Sea, but the fun part of it was going all through Israel and going
Yes.
down as far as Sharm el Sheikh, and
Yeah.
we met Willy Brandt there when he was.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he was going up in the gondola, and so were we, and so I got to meet Willy Brandt. Not that he'd ever remember me, but
Which Premier of Chancellor of Germany.
Right.
yes, he was.
Oh, that's interesting.
So Israel was really wonderful, though. They just don't drink very much.
No, they don't.
It was hard to find a really good bar.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Got into a couple.
Not that I needed it, but it was just that there just aren't that many bars around, because that's not something they're into.
Yeah.
What I found about Israel was the passion of the Israelis, of their country, because how old now? Is it 70, 60 years old now?
Yes. Yeah.
That's about all. And at the time, it was probably 50 years old. And
One of the most passionate things I've ever heard anybody ever say in my life was from my own Campanola. And it was on Friday, September the 15th, 2001. It was just after September the 11th. Iona was just leaving as the chair of the Fraser River Basin Committee or Authority. And she'd been the chairman or chairperson, and she was becoming the lieutenant governor for the province of British Columbia.
Right.
9/11 had just taken place. I was sitting with Rick Hansen, at the Hotel Vancouver, and it wasn't a big dinner. I can't remember how many people were there, maybe 50, something like that. And she started talking about the 9/11, because there had been a question whether they were going to, remember they canceled the Academy Awards, they did all sorts of things because nobody knew what was happening. But this one went ahead because it was sort of 4 days later, not 2 days later. And she told about when she was the president of the Liberal Party and some trip or something that I know Iona very well. And but this, you can tell her this, I will always remember it, one of the most passionate things I've ever heard. and she talked about refugees and